Now let's check out the Sears Die-Hard starting lineup for the Tigers this evening. Leading off will be the second baseman, Tony Phillips. Shortstop Alan Trammell bats second. Lloyd Mosby will be in center field batting third. Cecil Fielder tied for the league lead in home runs with 19 batting fourth. Gary Ward, the left fielder, bats fifth. Chet Lemon will be in right field batting sixth. In the seventh spot, the catcher Mike Heath. Tracy Jones has been struggling. He's the designated hitter batting eighth. And third baseman Ed Romero will hit ninth. Swindell, of course, with a great collegiate career at the University of Texas and pitched in the College World Series some years ago, now 25. And he'll face Tony Phillips, the second baseman, leading off for Detroit. Detroit won the opener of this series last night 6-2. Phillips hitting .231, 2 homers, 22 RBI. But he has been struggling, as have a lot of players in both lineups tonight. Strike one.
You know, even though both of these ball clubs have been struggling, they're in a division where they're still not that far out. Cleveland is only 3.5 games, and Detroit is 5.5. So they're lucky that they're in the East.
That's for sure. Tigers in 6th place in a 17 division, but only 5.5 back. The problem with that, as you know, Bob, is that you got to leapfrog over a lot of people to get into first place. And so even though you're only 5.5 back, there's still 5 teams ahead of the Tigers. But as I say, it's still early.
Yeah, and you don't mind leapfrogging when you only have to leapfrog 5 games rather than to come from 10 or 12 games behind and try to do it.
Right. That'll be foul out of play down the right field line. Still 1 ball, 2 strikes to Tony Phillips. Alan Trammell and Lloyd Mosby to follow here in the first.
You know, we talked about the Indians pitching staff, and Detroit really hasn't done that much with their pitching also.
Another one fouled on the right field line. Snyder gives it a look, but it's back in the seats as well. Well, you got 2 teams well under 500, and they haven't been getting the pitching, and they're not hitting. So
yeah, you're going to have
simple.
Right. When you don't hit, you definitely have to pitch. You have to have somebody that's going to go out there and pitch a shutout, or at least once every 2 weeks or what have you.
Down low, 2-2 now. The one thing that the Indians have done is play superb defense. They have made the fewest errors in the American League, and they have the best fielding percentage as a team as well. A drive to right field. Snyder nonchalants it and hauls it in for out number 1.
The defense, you're talking about Cleveland's defense, and the defense is the reason why they're only 3.5 games out. Because when you don't have pitching, you don't have hitting, you have to have something.
Yep.
And they played great defense.
Cleveland has made only 26 errors this year. Here's Alan Trammell hitting .308 with 3 homers and 31 RBIs.
At the beginning of the game, the pitcher's idea is to get the ball over the plate and to establish a certain tone to the ball game. And throwing strikes is the most important thing at the outset of the game.
Swindell with a fastball for a strike, 1-1.
You have to establish either whether you're going to throw breaking balls or fastballs or whatever. You have to establish what you're going to throw right at the beginning of the game.
2-1. The real nasty starters, though, and I'm looking at one named Bob Gibson. You did not do this, however. You didn't have to, but some guys will, if they're pitching well and lasting into the middle of the game or later innings, when they get to about the 3rd time through the lineup, then they start changing that pattern.
Well, I think everybody does that. I did that too. What I tried to do was to establish throwing strikes right off. Get ahead of the hitter. Get ahead of the hitter. And then later on in the game, you might not want to get ahead of a guy. You might start off something else, but you'll find them swinging at those pitches that are a little outside or a little high or a little low because you started off throwing strikes.
Trammell with a shot, and it's snared by Deion James. for the second out. 2 hard hit balls, but 2 outs here in the top of the first.
Take a look at that. He hit the ball right where it was pitched. Looked like a terrific catch, but he only went up about 2 feet off the ground, so he didn't get that high.
He didn't have to. James, who used to be an outfielder, now primarily the first baseman. Of course, Keith Hernandez on the DL for Cleveland. Lloyd Moseby with a big cut for strike 1. Moseby hitting .259, 6 home runs, and he's driven in 17. Foul tip held by Alomar, and it's 0-2.
Swindell's fastball will get up into the 90s. He throws the ball pretty hard when he wants to.
Alomar wanted that pitch up in the strike zone, and that's where it was. 1-2. Just missing outside.
See, that's excellent pitching right there. You go up in the strike zone and hope he'll swing at the ball. He didn't swing at it. Then you go back and try to just nip the corner with one. Now he's got to go back down and shoot.
Now he came inside and jammed him a little bit. Moseby fouling it off. Still 2-2. Home plate umpire Jim Evans retrieving it. Evans, one of the more senior American League umpires and the crew chief of this particular crew. 2 out, nobody on, no score. Top of the first, and a 2-2 count to Moseby. Greg Swindell sets down the Tigers in order in the first. No score as we go to the bottom of the first after this. As we go to the bottom of the first, here's the Sears diehard starting lineup for the Cleveland Indians tonight. Second baseman Jerry Brown leads it off. First baseman Dion James will bat second. Corey Snyder, the right fielder, bats third. Candy Maldonado hitting over 300 in left field, batting fourth. Designated hitter Chris James will hit fifth. Sandy Alomar behind the plate, hitting sixth, doing a great job. Brooke Jacoby, the third baseman, hits seventh. In the 8-hole, center fielder Mitch Webster, and the ninth place hitter, the shortstop Felix Fermin.
And Jack Morris will be on the hill. Morris is a veteran pitcher. He has all of the pitches. He has a fastball and a curveball and a slider and a forkball, and he throws just about everything in the kitchen with the kitchen sink. And his best pitch, though, is his fastball, but he's gotten to the point where he doesn't use it very much. But when he wants to, he can still get the fastball up into the 90s, and that's pretty good.
Morris, as you alluded to earlier, Bob, has been hit with some hard times. His record 3-7, not indicative of the way he has pitched. And to get a win his last time out, the team had to score 8 or 9 runs for it.
Yeah, I was looking at those stats. The score was 9-7, and I don't ever remember winning a game when I gave up 7 runs. Of course, we never had a ball club that could score 9.
You were lucky to get 2.
We get 9 in 3 games, maybe.
Well, here's Jerry Brown to lead it off. What a difference a year makes. Last year, Brown flirted with 300. This year, he's hitting just .216, 1 homer, 8 RBIs, and not at all a good on-base percentage for a leadoff hitter, especially. A little bit low, ball 1.
You know, I don't understand why hitters don't hit more than what they do, especially because of what they limit the pitcher to do nowadays. They make you throw it right out over the plate so they can hit it.
You know what? I think, obviously, you're talking from a pitcher's perspective as well. You should. I think that hitters aren't as aggressive as they should be.
Well, they're not. You're absolutely right. I can remember hanging curveballs and guys jumping off the ground to swing at them. Now they'll take a hanger.
Brown with a swing and a miss, and it's 1-2. It's, you know, it is a good idea as a hitter to take pitches, because if you take pitches, you more often than not will get yourself to where you've got a more favorable count with which to work. But you can't let the good ones go by, because in an at-bat you're not going to see that many of them. This one popped up in foul territory. Ed Romero is calling for it, and he has it for the first out here in the bottom of the first. Well, here at Cleveland Municipal Stadium, it is one of the older ballparks, and it is not symmetrical. In about 4 years, they're going to have a new stadium just for baseball here, and the Cleveland Browns will continue to play football here at Municipal Stadium, and the Indians will have a new park. They just recently voted that into existence. Deion James, the hitter, and he takes a strike. James hitting .257, no home runs, 5 RBI.
Their new park is not going to be a dome stadium either.
Nope.
Which is unusual. Most parks today, especially up north, they build domes.
Morris took a lot off of it. Almost a semi blooper, but it stayed high. 1-1.
Also, did I mention that Morris also throws a forkball? He has everything.
This one is skied to right field. Chet Lemon with an easy play, and when it comes down, it'll be out number 2.
Batting in the third position, right fielder number 28, Corey Snyder.
So 2 out and nobody on for Corey Snyder, who's hitting .256. He's hit 5 out and driven in 22. And he's finally, according to Corey anyway, starting to feel comfortable at the plate, and it's indicative of the fact that he's hit .381 over his last 6 games, so maybe he's finding his stroke. Off the end of the bat, strike 1.
You look at this ball club, the Indians, and you look at their first 3 guys, and these are the guys who will win the ball game for you. One's hitting .216, the other one's hitting .257 and .256. When those 3 guys are hitting like that, you're not going to win a lot of ball games.
No, and they all have low on-base percentages as well. So not only are they not hitting for the average, they're not getting on base by any other means, such as walking. In fact, Cleveland is last in all of Major League Baseball in the number of walks they have received. They have walked only 103 times this year, and that is the lowest in all of Major League Baseball. And that'll just beat to death your on-base percentage.
Well, that means that they haven't been so selective. We were talking about guys taking pitches.
Right.
They haven't been taking too much.
Nope. Another foul. 0-2.
You know, I agree with you when you talk about taking and getting into the count. But when you look for a breaking ball, if you take a look at this, it's just he didn't have his body at all into it. He got a little trick there on the breaking ball. But if you take a hanger, what kind of curveball are you looking for? One low and away, or are you looking for a hanger?
That's right. There's a drive and a base hit into right center field. And Lemon can't cut it off. Snyder's going to have at least 2. When he's going to stop at second with a 2-out double.
Well, we take a look here. The ball really was a good pitch. It was out over the plate, on the outside part of the plate. Of course, he just went with it, and there's not much you can do. A lot of times when guys get hit, you think it's always a bad pitch. That was a pretty good pitch, down and away.
Yep, sometimes you just have to say, I made a good pitch, but he hit it. That brings up Candy Maldonado hitting .309, 10 home runs, and 35 RBI.
Now, it's a wonder he's been hitting the way he has with nobody in front of him. I don't know why they pitched to him. There's nobody on base.
Well, Maldonado has always been able to hit. Changing teams and leagues hasn't slowed him down any. In fact, he's really had a resurgence after struggling in San Francisco. A big cut there, but strike 2, 0-2.
Well, the reason he struggled over there is because they were platooning him, and also on certain times they would just sit him down and wouldn't play him for 2 weeks. And it's tough to play under those circumstances.
Especially when you've been used to playing every day. Did he go too far? Yes, he did. Jack Morris strikes him out. And the 2-out double by Snyder is wasted as he's stranded at second. No score after 1. Top of the second inning, and Bill talking about doing some pounding in Minnesota. Well, coming up here in the top of the second for the Tigers, a guy who's been doing some pounding since the season started and has shown no signs of tapering off. Cecil Fielder, co-leader with 19 home runs, second in the American League with 48 RBIs, and obviously he has been walked a few times, which contributes to his outstanding on base percentage of .406. Ball one. High fly ball deep to right field. Corey Snyder back. It keeps going, and it's gone. Home run number 20 for big Cecil Fielder to temporarily, at least, give him the American League lead.
Well, Cecil really didn't hit that ball at all. He hit it down, more or less down the right field line, and he just reached out and poked it. The ball got pretty high, but with a guy that strong, even when he pops it up, it goes 340 feet, and that ball only went about 340. You can see he got his arms fully extended, and usually when a guy gets his arm extended, regardless of whether he gets jammed or not, it'll take off somewhere, especially a big, strong guy.
Boy, he is strong. Snyder with a good effort, but to no avail. 1-0 Detroit. And then here's Gary Ward. He fouls it back for strike two. Ward hitting .253, 3 homers and 16 RBI. Fielder's last home run prior to tonight was last Friday when he hit a grand slam against Seattle. And Ward goes too far, and he's out of there. Second strikeout for Greg Swindell. 1 out here in the second.
You know, if I'm the pitcher down there, I'm not gonna let a fielder have credit for that. Take a look at this pitch. The high fastball is pretty much up, and it's not a ball though. It's out there on the corner. It's up a little bit. When you get a couple of strikes on a guy, especially if you've been pitching down low, then you try to throw one up with pretty good stuff on it. Most of the time, they won't hit it.
Chet Lemon, the hitter, hitting .283, 4 homers and 14 RBIs. Lemon missed 8 games last month with a calf muscle injury. Came back to the Detroit lineup last Friday, and now it's 1 ball, 1 strike.
Heard him before the ball game. He was getting on a few of the guys in the dugout. A couple of left-handers are not playing today. They said he had Swindell-itis.
That'll happen on occasion. Chet, a couple of years ago, built a house in Florida about 10 minutes from me, and it looked like they used an entire forest just for the 2x4s. I mean, the thing is like 6,000 square feet or more. And when they were framing that house, it was like never-ending lumber.
You thought they were building a hotel?
Yeah,
huh?
I thought it was a hotel. I didn't know this neighborhood was zoned for that. It was some kind of place. Out of play. Still 2-2. Chet, in fact, lives about 2 streets away from Tim Raines. He has no small bungalow himself. Three and 2 now.
Baseball's been very, very, very good to me.
Yes,
huh?
yes. It has been good to them.
Yes.
And they have been good to it. Popped up. Deion James in foul territory. Out number 2. Here's Mike Heath, who has had a great year so far after a career of not hitting for any kind of an average. He has not been below about 345 this year, and he's hitting 356 right now. Ball 1.
You know, it's ironic when a guy, of course, his year's not over with yet, but if a guy has a year like this, it's seems like everybody will try to determine whether or not he should have been that type of a hitter his entire career. And, you know, you're entitled to have an extraordinary year.
The problem will be for Mike, I guess, if he has a year like he's had 2 months so far, next year coming back and trying to duplicate it, because all of a sudden the expectations are much higher.
Yeah, well, I would tell him to get the book and then take the average, and we'll go back down to our average here.
Yeah, let's get real.
Yeah.
2-2. 2 out, nobody on. Cecil Fielder with a leadoff homer here in the second to give the Tigers a 1-0 lead. 3-2.
See, Swindell is changing his aggressiveness right now to Heath, and you really shouldn't do that when there's nobody on base. And you know, in the early innings, scores 1-0. Go after him.
He goes after him there, and he fouls the fastball off. Still 3-2.
A lot of times the catcher will be the guy, the culprit there, and of course you should know better. Don't let him get you in trouble. You end up walking this man, and then you got a little problem.
That might have been out of the strike zone, but he fouled it off again. And Sandy Alomar with a little palms down signal to Swindell. Bring that ball down. The wind blowing out here in Cleveland. It's not a strong wind, but it is blowing directly out to center field. Ball 4. That is the first walk of the ball game. And with 2 out, Heath will be at first base. For Tracy Jones, the designated hitter. Jones has just 1 hit in his last 18 at bats, hitting .237. Strike 1.
Of course, when you're hitting the way he's hitting, I don't know that I'd want to spot the pitcher or strike.
Oh. Well, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, this lack of aggressiveness. 1-1. Of course, the tough thing about hitting is that you've got to be aggressive and patient at the same time, and sometimes that's paradoxical. He's not very patient there.
You know, as a hitter, you should probably try to figure out what the pitcher's thinking about. And when Jones comes up to that plate, Swindell knows right now he's hitting 100 and whatever it is, and he's going to try to get ahead of him. He's not going to mess around.
A fly ball into center field. Mitch Webster hardly has to move, and the inning is over. But Cecil Fielder's 20th home run of the year gives the Tigers a 1-0 lead here in the second. Chris James, Sandy Alomar, and Brooks Jacoby scheduled here in the second for the Indians. James hitting .254, 2 homers, 14 RBIs. And as the designated hitter, he has struggled a little bit. But John McNamara has hung with him. Strike 1. Cleveland has a bunch of National League refugees, including Chris James. There's that way off speed breaking ball. 0-2. We bring you up to date of what else is happening in baseball tonight. Pirates out to a big lead over the Cubs. They just keep doing it. And there's that split finger for strike 3. Second strikeout for Morris. He gave him the full repertoire almost in that at bat.
You know, I was always taught, take a look at this. This is that split finger. And what happens, it looks like a fastball, slows down and it drops. But I always was taught that if you had a bunch of pitches 6, 7, 8 pitches, you wouldn't be good at any of them. But that's not true today. Here's a guy that throws 5 or 6 pitches, and I can't say that all 5 or 6 he's equally as effective, but he certainly is on 4 of them. Pretty good pitcher.
And he certainly has learned a lot about pitching over the years and changed from more throwing to more pitching. Sandy Alomar fouls it off in the count 0-2. John McNamara this afternoon couldn't say enough about Sandy Alomar. Here's a guy who has every member of the media waiting for him wherever the Indians have gone this year. He's hitting .288. He has handled everything beautifully, including the pitching staff. But he is down on strikes as Morris has struck out 3 in a row. We'll go back to the Baseball Tonight studio and Bill Patrick.
Third baseman number 26, Brooke Jacoby.
Thanks, Bill. Well, Stump Merrill may not win his first game, but he's the first to score a run in his first game anyway. At least he's not behind.
Well, I just wonder how long he's going to be there.
Oh, I'll tell you, that door just keeps revolving, doesn't it? Brooke Jacoby with 2 out, nobody on, and a 2-ball, no-strike count. Jacoby hitting .282, 4 homers and 16 RBI.
You know, all of the changes they make over there, and you have the press and everybody else all over Steinbrenner, but you never hear, oh boy, here we go.
And he puts a charge in this one, and this game is tied. Brooke Jacoby with his 5th home run of the year to make it 1-1 in the bottom of the 2nd inning.
When a guy hits the ball that far, there's no question where the pitch was. It wasn't a pitch that's low and away. Take a look at it, and it's got to be right down the middle. There it is.
Boy, he jumped on that one.
He says, no, that's okay, Mike. I'll handle this one.
And about 380 feet later, it's out of here.
I was talking about Steinbrenner. You never hear of any of the guys that are fired say that he's not a good guy, and nobody's ever mad at him. I guess he treats them pretty nicely.
Well, he's got so many guys on the payroll now. I mean, he'll give him a contract, and then he'll fire him in the middle of the contract, and then he'll have to pay him the rest of the contract. Mitch Webster down on strikes. Morris has struck out 4 of the last 5, but the home run sandwiched in there by Jacoby has tied the game at 1 after 2. And Ed Romero, the 9th place hitter for Detroit, will lead it off as we start the 3rd. Romero hitting .237, no homers, 2 RBI. He gets jammed and pops it up into short center field. Jerry Brown out. 1 away here in the 3rd.
You know, one of the ways that the game has changed, and even though we're only 2 months or going on to the 3rd month of the season, and there's plenty of season left for guys to improve, but even at this time of the year, when a player hit 200, 220, usually he was sent out. He was gone. Of course, with the minor league system the way it is today, you don't have a minor league system. You can't afford to do that.
It's true. Far fewer teams in the minors. Consequently, fewer players to choose from. Tony Phillips flied out to right field his first at bat. He's now just had 4 hits in his last 37 at bats. Oh, baby, what a play by Jacoby. Well, they call third base a reaction position, and Jacoby certainly reacted well on that play. That's one where you either make it or it's a base hit by you.
Yeah, the ball's on the inside part of the plate, and that's where you can really hit it. Jacoby may have been trying to get out of the way of that ball. Either you catch it or it catches you, and I think it caught him.
It was ripped, but it's out number 2, and a good play by Brooke.
He's smiling over there. He's just happy to be alive.
So here's Alan Trammell with 2 out and nobody on. Trammell takes a strike. He lined out to the first baseman Dion James in the first. And the breaking ball lofted into short left center field. A long run for Webster, but he gets there and the inning is over. Greg Swindell retires the Tigers in order here in the third. 1-1 after 2 1/2. Felix Fermin will lead it off for Cleveland in the bottom half of the third. Fermin hitting just .208 with a home run and 9 RBIs. Takes on for ball 1. Fermin, and then the top of the order, Jerry Brown and Dion James against Jack Morris. Ball 2.
Well, I'm trying to figure out what Morris is trying to do with Fermin. He's hitting .208. This kind of hitter, you make him hit the ball. He's not going to hit a home run. He has hit one, but he's not going to hit a home run. Throw it down there and make him hit it. You got 8 other guys out there to help you.
Ball 3.
You know what happens there when you do get behind a hitter like this, then you have a tendency to try to aim, and when you aim, it's just all over. It's all over when you aim the ball.
He fires that one in there. 3-1. Morris has not walked a batter, and he's given up 2 hits, a double to Snyder and the home run to Jacoby. 3-2. Fermin taking all the way. Ball 4. So Morris issues his first walk, and the Indians have the leadoff batter aboard here in the third. And the actual leadoff hitter coming up, Jerry Brown, who popped out in foul territory to the third baseman Ed Romero in the first. Brown with just 5 hits in his last 44 at bats. And that's down around the 100 mark. And there goes Fermin, and a ground ball through the hole on the right side. Fermin goes to third, and with nobody out, the Indians have something going with runners at first and third.
The managers will do things to help you, and the hit and run is one way you can help a guy that's in a slump. We take a look at this pitch right here. It's up in the strike zone, but you put the hit and run on, and when you put the hit and run on, the hitter has to watch that ball, and it makes a better hitter out on it.
He's more concerned with making contact, which is his job at that point, than he is trying to drive the ball somewhere. So Fermin at third and Brown at first, and Dion James with a ground ball, but Tony Phillips goes to second to get the force play as the run scores, and Cleveland takes a 2-1 lead. An RBI for Dion James, his 6th of the year on the fielder's choice.
This ball here took 3 or 4 hops. Usually when you hit the ball like that, you're not going to have time for a double play. So the best bet is just to try to get that front runner, and that's exactly what happened here. You get him, and you don't even mess with going to first base. Get it back to the pitcher.
So Dion, minus the Belmonts, is on first. 1 out. And here's Corey Snyder. Snyder with a ground ball just outside third base for strike 1.
See, now a lot of people wouldn't understand what you're talking about, but I understand. Dion and the Belmonts?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Dion DiMucci. From what I hear, been on the road touring, doing some performing. Also got an album out, I think, of songs that he wrote. Not with the Belmonts anymore. So both Dions are Belmontless. Strike at the knee. 0-2.
Now there's a pitch right there that may have been up in the 90s. I told you every once in a while he'll pop it in there, and he did.
Snyder, talking to Jim Evans, thought it might have been low.
Well, he may have not known where that was. he said it sounded low.
Sounded low, right. That's the line. It sounded low. That one definitely low as it bounces, and Heath does a good job of keeping it in front of him. So the count 1-2.
That pitch there may have been the fork ball. The fork ball is a good pitch. It's very effective. However, you see a lot of those pitches thrown in the dirt, and you see guys advance bases, and you'll see them thrown with a guy on third base, and they'll score. It's a dangerous pitch to a catcher.
There goes Deion James on a swing and a miss, and the ball gets away from Phillips, and James safe at second. It'll be a stolen base for James as Snyder strikes out for the second out of the inning. James' third stolen base of the year.
This is going to be a good throw. I do believe if he throws this, if he catches this ball, they have him. And we'll take a look here. Oh yeah, the ball got there, definitely got there before the runner. And why he missed that, I don't have any idea. But he did. That's baseball.
May have taken his eye off it. No, it looks like he's looking at it. Just boxed it.
Yeah, a lot of times you're concerned with the runner and what have you, and you just might peek up just for a second.
So here's Candy Maldonado with a big cut, but no contact. Strike one. Maldonado struck out his first time up to end the first inning. We were talking about how that forkball produces wild pitches, or the split finger, whatever you want to call it. The Indians lead the major leagues. I mean, the Detroit Tigers staff lead the major leagues in wild pitches with 33. Morris has thrown 8 himself. And now it's 0-2 to Maldonado. So that stat just illustrates what you're talking about. It does produce a lot of wild pitches.
I just wonder, I was never able to throw a forkball myself because I couldn't, or a split finger, I couldn't spread my fingers far enough, but I wonder if you just can really control that ball and you know where it's going every single time. I don't think so.
Well, it certainly was the pitch of the 80s. And Jack Morris certainly had a great winning percentage in the 80s. And that might have been another one right there as Heath has to retrieve it and tag Maldonado for the final out of the inning. Morris has struck out 6, but he finds himself trailing 2-1 after 3. Welcome back to Municipal Stadium. A 2-1 Cleveland lead as we go to the 4th inning. Steve Zabriskie and Bob Gibson with you on Baseball Tonight. Greg Swindell has given up just 1 base hit, and that was the home run by Cecil Fielder that produced the only run for the Tigers so far, and he will face Fielder again as Cecil will bat second here in the inning, but Lloyd Mosby will lead it off. Mosby struck out in the first inning. Mosby with a fly ball to left center field. Mitch Webster hauls it in for the first out of the inning, and let's go back to Bill Patrick in the Baseball Tonight studio. Well, here's Cecil. Reached out and just flicked one about 340-45 feet down the right field line for a home run his first time up. 20 now for the league leader. And 49 RBIs. Here we are in the first week of June. He already has 49 RBIs. Boy, here's a drive to center field. It's another one out of here. It's 2-2, and Cecil Fielder is just amazing.
Now that was not really that bad of a pitch.
No, but that ball right there needed to file a flight plan and get some clearance from the Cleveland airport. Man.
The ball was down a little bit. You can see there he had to go down and out, but he extended those arms, and when you extend the arms and hit the ball, it usually goes pretty hard.
Not only did it go hard and far, it went in a hurry. I mean, it got out of here in no time. 2 home runs for Fielder, 21 on the year. It's 2-2 with 1 out here in the 4th, and the batter Gary Ward. Ward, a strikeout victim in the 2nd, takes low ball 1. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, I wasn't sure if I was going to get Fielder credit for the first home run. I'm going to have to give him credit for 2 on this last one.
Man, you're right. That was a good pitch, and I mean, he just turned it around in a hurry. 2-1 now to Ward. Foul back. You know, it's nothing against Gary Ward to save it, Bob, but it's not like Cecil Fielder has Mark McGwire hitting behind him. You know what I mean? Gary Ward is a major league hitter, yes, and they're all dangerous, but it's not as if, you know, the Indians had the kind of, or the Tigers had the kind of lineup where you couldn't maybe pitch around Fielder a little bit. He has walked a lot, but there's an example right there. That's a quality pitch, and he just crushes it.
I was talking to Billy Muffet, who was one of the coaches on the Detroit staff, and he said that the problem now with everybody in the league is they don't know where to pitch Fielder. They tried every different thing they can. He hits the ball to all fields. He pulls it. He hits it straight away, and they don't know where to pitch him.
That's obvious. Gary Ward walks. Second walk issued by Swindell. We're in Cleveland's Municipal Stadium on ESPN's Baseball Tonight. Steve Zabriskie and Bob Gibson, glad you could join us. A 2-2 tie, and so far, as have so many games for the Tigers this year, it's been the Cecil Fielder show, as Big Cecil has hit 2 out for the Tigers' runs. Here's Chet Lemon, who fouled out to the first baseman Deion James in the second. And he misses the off-speed pitch for strike 1.
You know, a couple of weeks ago, you and I had a discussion about walking a guy with nobody on.
Yep.
It might get to the point where they might have to do that with Cecil.
Tell you what, if you can't figure out how to get him out in a game situation, you might be tempted to do that.
Boy, but if it doesn't work.
Oh, they'll eat your lunch. Lemon with a ground ball to short. Fermin to Brown, and not in time at first. And Dick Tracewski, the Tigers' first base coach, is saying that Gary Ward should not have been called out at first. If they really didn't get Ward. Let's take a look.
You mean at second base here? And I'm
second, yeah.
Yeah, they got him. I think the problem is that he thought he was bobbling the ball, but he really didn't bobble it. He had a hard time getting it out of his glove. That's what it was. And besides that, when it's that, you know, when you throw a guy out that far, they're going to call him out.
It's the neighborhood play. Neither one of them were exactly on the bag. Well, here's Mike Heath. He walked his first time out. 2 out now with Lemon at first, and a strike to Heath. Mike Heath has hit in 7 of his last 8 games, hitting .360 and a .356 season average. 0-2. And that didn't miss by more than an eyelash.
Oh, but he can see the ball. You know, I was talking to a couple of hitters, Joe Torre for one, when they had his great year. And when you're hitting like Heath is hitting, the ball actually looks bigger to you the rest of the season. And the ball's a little outside. You take it because you see it real well.
That pitch almost in the same place, but he swings and misses. Third strikeout for Swindell, who has only given up 2 hits, but they have each been a home run by Fielder. Jack Morris given up a couple of runs, but he has Cecil Fielder on his side, and Cecil's gotten him back for him, so we're tied 2-2 as we go to the bottom of the 4th inning. Morris has struck out 6 already through 3 innings, and here Chris James will lead it off for the Indians. He struck out his first at bat in the 2nd. And he hits one a ton down the left field line. Out of here. If the game were being broadcast in black and white tonight, you'd think you were watching reruns of Home Run Derby. That's the 4th home run of the game, and it's 3-2 Cleveland.
Well, you see that extension we were talking about, and of course that pitch right there was on the inside part of the plate. And when you pitch on the inside part of the plate, you're flirting with home runs. If you pitch away, the only guys that are going to hit home runs are the guys like Fielder.
Jacoby and now James have homered for the Indians. Here's Sandy Alomar, who struck out his first time up, and he slices one foul out of play down the right field line for strike 2. 0-2.
Morris just threw that eephus pitch again. I don't know where we got that word eephus, but it's a pitch that's just not like any of the rest of them. It's really, you slow your motion down and you just kind of thumb it up there. And usually the hitter will be way out in front.
In the dirt this time. 1-2. I think Rip Sewell, who was the first to throw that blooper off-speed, high arc pitch, called it his eephus pitch, and he made up the name, I guess. And somebody else called it the slop drop, and there have been a few guys over the years who have thrown that kind of a pitch. I think it was Sewell who threw it to Ted Williams in the All-Star game back in the 40s.
Billy Muffet on the right. That's the guy I was talking about. He was my pitching coach in St. Louis back in 1968.
Sandy Alomar gets a charge in one, but it's fouled. Still 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Sandy is leading all catchers, I guess, in the All-Star voting
in the American League. Cleveland hadn't had anybody elected since 1983, I think. The appeal to Dale Ford, the first base umpire, and he says no, he didn't go too far. So it's 2-2. Nobody out here in the 4th, and a run in on Chris James, leadoff homer, to make it 3-2 Cleveland. Boy, there's a quality fastball right there, an outstanding location. And Alomar is out of there. 7 strikeouts. Jacoby homered his last time up. It was his 5th of the year.
I have a good friend that coaches Miami University, and they didn't get in the College World Series the first time in a long time.
Yeah, that's right. It was kind of a shock to him to be ousted. I'm kind of rooting for Stanford because Palo Alto is my hometown.
That's in Connecticut, isn't it?
No. It's not. Who do you root for? You live in Omaha. Who do you root for when you're...
Well, Creighton University, they got knocked out right at the beginning, so I don't know.
You know, everybody left the root.
Right.
Three 3-0 to Brooke Jacoby. 1 out. Ball 4. Jack Morris's second walk. Mitch Webster, the hitter. And I don't know why Jim Evans called time and Morris backed off the mound. Morris now talking to Ted Hendry, the second base umpire, about something. Anyway, it's 1 ball, no strikes to Webster, who struck out his first at bat. Popped up out of play behind home plate, and it's 1-1. Webster is another Indian who's been in a bit of a tailspin lately. He has had only 6 hits in his last 40 at-bats, I should say, and that's under $1.50 somewhere. Mitch, who can run, lays down a bunt. Ed Romero will have to eat it. That's another good way to do it when you're in a slump.
And that was a perfect bunt. It could have been a little bit more toward the line. We take a look at it. And the guy that can run like this, all he has to do is really get the ball down. Or you have to come up with it and field it cleanly. He bobbled it just for a split second, and that's too late with a guy that can run like that.
So it's a base hit on the bunt by Webster, and it puts runners at first and second with one out, and brings up Felix Fermin, who was walked and scored in the third. Line drive, base hit, center field. Jacoby will score. Here's a throw to the plate, cut off by Fielder. Webster to third.
Morris is trying to get ahead right down the middle. You don't get ahead of a guy right down the middle. You got to either put that ball inside or outside. Of course, you don't make pitches where you want to all of the time. Of course, after that, nothing else to do but score.
Now it's 4-2 Cleveland. And again, runners at first and third. 10th RBI of the year for Felix Fermin, and Jerry Brown, who singled his last time up, takes ball one.
I was just about to say before Fermin got that hit that if you're in trouble, you want to be in trouble at the bottom of the order. Well, I'm glad I didn't say that.
It didn't work out that time. Lance McCullers, newly acquired from the Yankees by Detroit, warming in the Tigers bullpen. Ground ball to second. Phillips goes to Trammell, who goes to Fielder, and the inning is over. But the Indians score 2 runs, one of them coming on Chris James' leadoff homer, and it's 4-2 Cleveland. At the beginning of the telecast, we talked about how the Indians have not had their starters going more than 4 innings. Well, here's Greg Swindell entering the 5th. So things could be turning around for Swindell and the Indians. Tracy Jones hits a drive to left field. Maldonado back, and it's a home run. We showed you that the wind is blowing out, but these home runs don't need any help.
Yeah, it's not blowing hard enough to affect the flight of the ball. Before the ball game, somebody was asking me, some reporter was asking me about, take a look at this, down and in, that ball goes. You don't have to swing at that. About a lively ball this year. I have no idea, but the balls are flying out of the park.
Prior to that at bat, Tracy Jones was 1 for his last 19. That is his 4th home run of the year. It's 4-3 Cleveland, and here's Ed Romero, who popped out to the second baseman his first at bat. One ball, 2 strikes.
I understand the ball carries better here when it's humid.
I think the ball carries pretty well everywhere when it's humid.
Oh, okay.
The warm air rises. I learned that a long time ago.
You know, I hated the midsummer, in July and August when it was really hot.
Especially playing in St. Louis.
Oh, yeah, and not only does the ball carry, the pitchers get tired after 4 innings.
Ground ball, fair ball over the bag and down the left field line. Romero will have at least 2. And he will stop at second. Nobody out here in the 5th inning. And after Tracy Jones led off with a home run, Romero has doubled.
Take a look here. Another pitch down and in. Of course, he was way on top of that ball. Luckily, he kept that thing in fair territory. One of the things they teach you when you're young and you're learning to pitch anytime you want a double play ball, and which is not a good place to throw it, but throw it down and in, and usually the guy will pull it, and hopefully he'll pull it right at someone.
Tony Phillips is 0 for 2. And just 4 for his last 38. 3 runs the Tigers have scored, all on solo home runs. But Romero is at second with nobody out. 1-1 now.
You don't like to give up home runs, but if you're going to give them up, it's best to give them up with nobody on, and that's obvious. But it keeps that score down. You know, get 3 home runs, you have 3 runs rather than 6.
A breaking ball now, Mo. 2-1 to Tony Phillips. Swindell had allowed 8 home runs in 55 2/3 innings coming into the game. And he's been tagged for 3 tonight. This one will be fouled on the right field line into the Indians bullpen. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Phillips.
You know, when we first started the game, right before the game, we were talking about Swindell, and he really hasn't pitched that well so far this season. He's beginning to get a little stronger and throw a little better, but he's still making a lot of bad pitches. He just hasn't gotten his location yet.
And if you don't have that, it doesn't make any difference how hard you throw. Strike 3 call. There's some location for you on the outside part of the plate at the knees for strike 3. And that's 1 out in the 5th. So we got home run derby going about 2,500 miles apart. No, not that far. About 1,500 miles apart down in Texas. But Fielder has 2, so he is 1 ahead of Canseco even after that home run by Jose. Alan Trammell 0 for 2 is lined to first and fly to shallow center. And a good breaking ball for a strike. 1-1. We're in the top of the 5th inning. Cleveland leading Detroit 4-3. And the Tigers have scored 1 here in the 5th. A drive by a diving Deion James. Romero is going to be held up at third as a throw comes right on the money. Even though Alomar took a seat, Romero had no chance to score. Snyder with a fine arm, and the ball was hit very sharply.
He was going to right field all the way. You can see the way he led with his hands. Anytime you lead with your hands and you drag that barrel, he was going the opposite way. His throw was so strong, and it was a short hop, and that's why Alomar had to fall backwards. It took a short hop on him.
So runners at first and third. Still only 1 out for Lloyd Moseby. Moseby has struck out and flied out to the center fielder Webster in left center. Ball 1. Activity has begun in the Cleveland bullpen now. Steve Olin up and throwing. And Swindell, unaware that Jim Evans, the home plate umpire, called time, started his delivery.
A lot of times they call it a little late. I used to get a free knockdown pitch then.
1 ball, 1 strike. As Moseby chases. Lloyd working on a 4-game hitting streak. That's a modest streak, to say the least. He's hit .353 over the 4 games, though. Alan Trammell just a step or 2 off first base.
You know, you don't see a lot of running over here in the American League, but Trammell, he will run. He has 7 stolen bases, so he'll take off on you. You have to keep your eye on him.
off the end of the bat and foul outside the third base bag. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Trammell back to first and Romero back to third. Detroit scored first. Cecil Fielder hit a home run in the second inning, and the Indians then matched it in the bottom of the second. Then the Indians took the lead 2-1 in the third. Detroit tied it 2-2 in the fourth, and the Indians scored 2 in the bottom of the fourth to regain the lead 4-2. And now Detroit has added a run here in the fifth inning on yet another home run, this one by Tracy Jones, to make it 4-3 Cleveland. And Detroit with runners at first and third. Foul back out of play over the Tigers dugout, and the count remains 2-2. And guess who's on deck? Mr. Fielder, sir.
Swindell's got this left-hander up there. He has to go for the juggler right now.
Check swing, and it's now 3-2.
Now, if I were Swindell, I'd come right back in there on the inside corner because Mosby is really diving out over that plate. So you got to throw him on the inside.
Popped up into short left field. Maldonado coming on. Romero faking and not going. So not deep enough to score the run, and 2 out here in the fifth with runners remaining at first and third. Mark Wiley, the pitching coach, out for a conference for the Indians, and right now they're deciding, do we want to put Fielder on? Second base is open. I think I'd be tempted to walk him.
Well, second base is not open. First base, second base is open. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. But I don't know. I think he's asking him what you want to do out here. I don't think I'd want to walk him. I really don't.
But you never wanted to give in to the hitter.
Yeah,
anyway.
but I'm trying to put my place in Swindell's. Put myself in Swindell's place. And I really, after. What's he going to do? Hit another home run? I don't think so.
Well, he tried. He gave it a shot for strike 1. Cecil hit Cecil, hit his 20th of the year to right field in the second inning. His 21st of the year to center field in the fourth inning. Fouls this one back, and it's 0-2.
What Swindell is trying to do right now, he's trying to get in on Fielder. Most of those big guys like to get their arms out. He's trying to get in on him, but my understanding is that if you come in on him, you better be throwing the ball in the 90s because he'll pop it. He'll pop it in there.
High and away, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Well, we're going to come back inside.
A drive to center field, and he does it again. It's out of here. Welcome to the Cecil Fielder Show. 3 home runs tonight.
Well, they tried to get it back in there, and I do believe they got inside on him. But he is really quick in there.
A 3-run home run.
Well, it didn't get in as far as it should have been.
Oh, but it went out as far as it should have gone out. Again to center field. He's unbelievable. And the Tigers have the lead now 6-4 after trailing 4-2. They have scored 4 runs here in the fifth, 3 of them on Fielder's 3rd home run tonight. Gary Ward, 1 ball, 1 strike. I'll tell you what, you're going to have to start calling him the man. Popped up, playable. Gary Brown out behind second. And the inning is over. Well, they had a base open and they could have walked Cecil, but they chose not to, and he makes them pay a 3-run home run, and Detroit leads by 2. Fifth inning baseball here at Municipal Stadium in Cleveland, and Deion James leads it off, and it has indeed been the Cecil Fielder night, and it's not even his home ballpark. 3 home runs, 5 RBIs. Deion James with a drive to right field. Chet Lemon has room and hauls in the liner for out number 1. Detroit now leading 6-4 with 4 runs in the top of the 5th. And here's Corey Snyder, 1 for 2 with a double in the 1st and a strikeout in the 3rd.
You know, with the score 6-4, and we're in the 4th inning here. If you, I'm sorry, in the 5th inning, if you still want to leave both of those starters in there, it's still not out of hand yet. You still have a pretty good ball game going, and of course, I see down in the bullpen in Cleveland, they got somebody warming up. I think it's Guante down there. And
Cecilio Guante is correct. Snyder.
I think that I would just kind of continue to see what's going to happen here.
You got the designated hitter, so you don't need to pinch hit for the guys. And if you, even though 10 runs have been scored here, it's a 2-run game. It might as well be 2-0 from a win-loss standpoint. There's Cecilio Guante.
And one of the problems that Cleveland has had is that their bullpen is tired. I mean, they come in and they pitch more than the regular starters.
Yep. Morris with that off-speed pitch, and Snyder laces it down the left field line for a base hit. Gary Ward will hold him to a single with 1 out in the 5th.
One thing about that blooper pitch, a lot of times a guy, you can see right here, he starts to swing, he stops, and he holds up, and he can still get it. You can reset, you can recock, and still hit it.
Yeah, it's not going to tear the bat out of your hand. That's the 7th hit for the Indians. The Tigers have 6. We have had a total of 6 home runs hit in this game, 4 by Detroit. And here's Candy Maldonado, who has struck out twice swinging. Morris has struck out 7. Snyder at first with 1 out. The hit was his 2nd of the night. Ball 2. Fielder, I mean, you know, what are you going to do with this guy? They had a chance to walk him, and they talked about it apparently, but didn't do it. And he hits good pitches 9 miles.
Yeah, I just think that you just have to make sure you don't make any bad pitches on him. That last home run he hit, they tried to get in on him, and they didn't get it in there.
Ground ball to 3rd. Romero goes to Phillips on the first. The fielder for a double play. And the Tigers, who lead the American League in double plays, turn their 65th. They lead 6-4. Press row here in Cleveland. Members of the 4th Estate looking on. And as we go to the 6th inning, Cecilio Guante on in relief for the Indians. And he'll face Chet Lemon. Detroit leading 6-4. Lemon tonight 0 for 2 is popped out and reached on a fielder's choice. Greg Swindell goes 5, but leaves as the losing pitcher at this point. Foul back, strike 1.
Guante's got an unusual delivery. Of course, I guess it's not unusual to us, but to some people. The first pitch he threw over the top, but he's basically a sidearm pitcher, and he looks a little different to those right-handers. They don't like facing a guy that comes down by the way of Port Arthur.
You're going to have to explain to people what you mean by way of Port Arthur as he grounds out to short. Port Arthur, Texas, we're speaking of.
Down below, yeah.
Or you could say Brownsville, I guess, or McAllen.
Well, you saw it. Ground out.
Here's Mike Heath, 1 out, nobody on, and Heath has walked and struck out in a Tapper foul for strike 1. Heath now hitting .353 on the year. Slider on the corner. Or make that off the corner. I'm umpiring from up here.
Hey, on the corner or off the corner, that's a good pitch. That's where it needs to be, either on the corner or off. And don't come any further over toward the middle of the plate. Those hitters love that.
A little looper and speared by Jerry Brown. Brown stayed with it and came up with it for out number 2.
When he first hit that ball, you thought it was going to go somewhere, but he hit it on the end of the bat, and it only went out, and he didn't even really have to jump for it. He just kept stride, and Brown came down with it.
So 2 out, nobody on for Tracy Jones, who homered his last time up and tried to again right there, strike 1.
A good slider, and Guante has a good slider, looks exactly like a fastball. You don't pick up the rotation until it's right up at the plate, and he's got a good one.
0-2 now. Two out, nobody on, and a 2-strike count. Whoop. That was the fastball that almost left Cleveland. 1-2.
You know, I can't talk enough about that ball there. Of course, that one was up too high, but inside. You have to do that if you're going to pitch on the outside corner.
And Guante drops down again and misses outside.
You just have to come inside to make them think about that ball in there.
Greg Swindell, who went 5. And went the way of many American League pitchers this year. Cecil Fielder took care of it. Well, Guante, Alomar, and a lot of other folks here in Cleveland thought it was a strike, but it's 3 balls and 2 strikes.
I was one of them. I thought it was a strike, too. Take a look right here. I tell you what, that's a strike. Of course, a lot of times that umpire, he's surprised back there also.
If a pitch can fool a hitter, it can fool an umpire.
Oh, yeah.
High fastball gets him out of the strike zone. Guante with a 1-2-3 inning in the 6th in relief. Still, however, the Tigers leading by 2. Bottom of the 6th here in Cleveland. And a 6-4 Detroit lead as Chris James leads off against Jack Morris. James with one of the 6 home runs that have been hit between the 2 teams tonight, his 3rd of the year in the 4th. A strike, 1-1. Sandy Alomar and Brooke Jacoby to follow. A 4-run 5th inning, including a 3-run home run by Cecil Fielder, has given the Tigers a 2-run lead. Strike 2, 1-2.
Morris is really starting to make good pitches right now. He's hitting that outside corner, and in my opinion, the catcher ought to talk to him and say, hey, look, let's just work the outside corner, keep the ball away, come in every once in a while off the plate, back out there, and see what happens.
He comes in here, and it's ripped foul by James. Still 1-2.
See, when you come in, you have to come in off the plate. You come in on the inside part of the plate, they'll hit it just the same way Chris James just hit it. But in these days, if you come in off of the plate, everybody wants to run out and fight.
That time it got jammed and fouled it back. Still 1-2. Scores of other games, Minnesota doing some pounding, and Boston leading the Yankees now, even though the Yankees scored first. The White Sox still leading. No score in Kansas City. Milwaukee leading Baltimore. Oakland leading Texas now 2-0. Canseco has at least one home run. Fielder has hit 3 here tonight. Fly ball into short center field. Mosby will drift in, and out number 1. Sandy Alomar has struck out swinging twice against Morris. Not this time. Base hit to left field.
A guy like Morris will be tough on a young ball player like Alomar, a rookie, or a guy who doesn't have much major league experience. This is a fastball up in the strike zone, and most guys don't miss the fastballs up. But when you throw breaking balls and off-speed pitches and you make good location with a young player, usually they're not patient enough, and so you're pretty effective with them. Once they become a better hitter and they become more patient, then you're going to have to change a little bit and do some different things.
Brooke Jacoby has a home run tonight, and he drives one to right field. Chet Lemon on the run, gets there, and Alomar will have to go back to first now with 2 outs. More scores in the National League. The Pirates just keep it going.
I keep waiting for Pittsburgh to kind of go into a little slump. They haven't done it so far.
No. Even though the Phillies for a while were playing very well and actually spent about 36 hours in first place, and the Pirates just came right back. Mitch Webster 1 for 2, had a bunt base hit in the 4th. Batting with Alomar at first and 2 out. High and away, 1-1. Foul back, 1-2. Morris asking for Mike Keith to go over the signs again. Down low. 2-2. Lance McCullers up again, and he is ready should Morris need the help. 2 out. And a base hit by a diving Tony Phillips. Alomar will go to third. And the Indians have runners at first and third. The tying runs are aboard. Second hit of the night for Mitch Webster. Nine hits now for Cleveland. And Felix Fermin, who drove in a run with a single in the 4th inning, after walking and scoring in the 3rd, 1 for 1 as the hitter. Alan Trammell came in from shortstop to have a brief conference with Morris.
Usually when a shortstop comes in, it's basically because the manager asked him to go in and waste a little time so the guy can get warmed up in the bullpen.
Hit on the ground to second. Easy play for Tony Phillips, and the inning is over. So 2 hits and 2 left in the 6th for the Indians, and the Tigers still lead it after 6 by 6-4 count. Well, the storyline tonight certainly is home run derby. All of the Tigers' runs have come as a result of the home run. Cecil Fielder has hit 3, driven in 5, a league-leading 23 homers on the year. And Chet Lemon leading off for the Tigers here in the ninth. Drives one to center field, but Webster runs it down on the warning track for out number 1. Mike Heath, the hitter, with 1 out, nobody on here in the ninth inning. Heath is 0 for 2 plus a walk. And he takes a strike. Mike's average tonight has dropped all the way down to 351. I don't think he's been below 347 all year. But all year right now consists of 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months, and he's not going to hit 340, but he might end up having a pretty good year. But I doubt very seriously if he's going to hit 340.
2-1 now. Looking ahead to the bottom of the ninth inning, the Indians trailing at this point by 2 runs will have the top of their order up. Jerry Brown, Deion James, and Corey Snyder. And he chased one there. 2-2. Cecilio Guante in relief. Cleveland starter Greg Swindell, who went 5. And gave up all 6 Detroit runs. Check swing roller that's foul. Still 2-2. One thing about Heath, he's a good defensive catcher, and if he can hit 300, it's a tremendous bonus.
Yeah, it's tough for a catcher to hit 300 because of being back there behind the plate the entire season. It really takes a lot out of the guy.
Well, your hands get sore, your legs get sore, your shoulders get sore, you take foul balls all over your body. And by the last third of the season, you have a hard time swinging the bat with any authority. Plus, it's physically exhausting. Oh, baby. Guante and Alomar were headed for the hills, thinking it was strike 3, but it was ball 4 on the 3-2 count. Second walk issued by Cecilio.
Take a look here. Well, I think we might just, it's down a little low, maybe. I think we might be having a little problem behind home plate here today.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Jim Evans has been consistent because whenever those pitches have seemed to be borderline, he's called them a ball.
That's the only thing you really want from an umpire, is to be consistent. Even if he's calling a pitch that you think is a strike, he's calling it a ball. As long as he calls it every time, then you'll know what to expect.
That's really what you want. An umpire, you know, hey, pick a strike zone and stay with it. And that's what Jim Evans has done. Here's Dave Bergman to pinch hit for Tracy Jones, the designated hitter. Bergman is a pinch hitter, 1 for 11 with 2 RBIs, hitting .261 overall. No homers and 5 RBIs total. 1 out. Mike Heath at first. And a fly ball into left center field. Webster over. And Mitch Smith, the basket catch for out number 2. You're watching Baseball Tonight here on ESPN. From Cleveland's Memorial Stadium, Steve Zabriskie and Bob Gibson. Glad you could join us. It's 6-4 Detroit in the top of the ninth inning. Cecil Fielder, 3 home runs and 5 RBI. Ed Romero 1 for 3, doubled and scored in the 5th inning. And he skies one into short left field. Candy Maldonado waits for it, and the inning is over. A walk and 1 left in the ninth for the Tigers. They take their 2-run lead to the bottom of the ninth inning. Well, now it'll be the Indians trying to get a couple, and Jerry Brown stands in, 1 for 4 on the evening. He singled to right back in the 3rd. Then it'll be Deion James and Corey Snyder against Mike Henneman in relief of Jack Morris, who stands to be the winner. Ball 1.
It appears that Henneman is just having a little location problem. He's up in the strike zone, and not just up in the strike zone, but he's up out of the strike zone, and he's done it quite often so far.
2 balls and no strikes. Jerry Brown with just 6 hits in his last 47 at-bats.
Chances are he'll be taken right here.
Yeah, and it's right in there, 2-1. But that's the proper approach.
Well, even
circumstance.
Sure. Even if he had been hitting, he still would be taken here down in the 9th inning.
Right. That's a little bit high. 3-1. Well, he's checking out Rich Dower, the third base coach, to see if, in fact, they want him taken here. Detroit has had great success here in Cleveland. Since 1979, the Tigers against the Indians here have a record of 89 wins and only 45 losses. And they're leading by 2 in the bottom of the 9th. Strike 2, and Brown appeared to be taking again. It's 3-2 now.
Well, you know, Detroit has traditionally had a ball club that's been able to hit home runs, and Cleveland has had a problem hitting home runs, and this is a pretty big ballpark.
Brown with a loop into right field. Lemon over. 1 out in the 9th. Deion James 1 for 4. He had a base hit his last time up in the 7th inning. Back in the 3rd inning, he drove in a run with a fielder's choice. A little bit low, 1-1.
It doesn't appear to me that Henneman is throwing the way he can, and of course that's understandable. When you're a little wild, you have you hesitate a little bit before you'll throw the bar as hard as you can.
Base hit into left center field. Kent Williams over to cut it off. It's a double for Deion James. That will allow Cleveland to bring the tying run to the plate.
That ball was really not a bad pitch. It was down and away, and it was tailing away when it was hit. Deion went out and got a pretty good pitch and smacked it over shortstop's head.
So now the Indians get to the meat of the order, and the third place hitter, Corey Snyder, who is 2 for 4 with a double and a single.
Now, regardless of what the control is on Henneman, he's going to have to air it out a little bit here, so you'll probably see him throw a little harder.
Ball 1 outside. Six to 4 Detroit with 1 out in the bottom of the 9th inning. Snyder went too far. 1-1.
Snyder was guessing along with me. We both were looking for fastballs, and he threw him something off speed. And usually when you're having control problems, you will stick with the stuff that you can get over best, and you won't go to off-speed stuff. So he fooled both of us.
On the corner. 1-2. Now, we just got through talking about how Jim Evans has been consistent with that pitch out there, calling it a ball all night. And that one's a strike. But maybe that one wasn't as far outside.
The one that he's been calling a ball has been the one that's on the inside corner to the right-hander. He doesn't call that a strike at all. But the one outside has been a little inconsistent with.
1 ball, 2 strikes. 2-2.
This is the kind of situation that will drive a manager crazy.
Corey Snyder representing the tying run. 3-2. Jerry Brown led off the inning by flying to right field, and Deion James doubled to left center. And the count for Snyder is 3-2. Grounded foul outside third. Pitch that was probably out of the strike zone, but Snyder had to hack at it.
Well, it was a hanging breaking ball, and you know, that's the one they take most of the time. Snyder went after it.
Ground ball to third. Short hop pickup by Romero. Safe at first. Fielder was pulled off the bag. And we'll see how they score it, whether it's an error on Romero or a base hit for Snyder.
Take a look here. Good pitch on the outside part of the plate, and he pulled it. Usually when you try to pull an outside pitch, that's what happens. You get the short hop. He wasn't able to make the good throw. I think the umpire got it right. Looked like he was safe.
Yep. Dale Ford making the call at first. And it's going to be a base hit. Well, no, they haven't put it up. It's an error. Now they put it up as an error on Romero. That's the first error of the game.
He made a good play on the short hop, and if he had made a good throw, he would have gotten him at first.
So now runners at first and second. Still only one out for Candy Maldonado, who is 1 for 4. Fouled off. Maldonado struck out his first 2 times up, grounded into a double play in the 5th inning, and then singled to left in the 7th. Paul Gibson is still warming up in the Detroit bullpen should Henneman falter. And as you pointed out, Bob, Henneman has not looked particularly sharp.
There are some days you go out there and you just don't have good stuff, and there's nothing you can do about it.
High and tight, 1-1. Maldonado leads the Indians with game-tying RBI. He chased one out of the strike zone, 1 and 2.
Boy, he's really dropping down, and when you drop down, that ball will go up on you. You'll get under it, and the rotation will force it to go up, and that's what he's doing. Everything he's throwing right now, mostly everything, is right up along the letters. If he would just get on top a little bit more, he could probably get that ball down.
That one was in tight as well as high, and difficult for Maldonado to get any kind of wood on. Drive into center field, a base hit. Here comes Deion James, and he's being held at third. Maldonado hit it so hard that, first of all, James had to hold up to make sure it would go through. And secondly, Mosby made a good play to charge the ball, and that prevented James from scoring.
I think James still could have scored because Mosby just came in and threw the ball to the cutoff man. He just kind of lobbed it in there. And James did not realize that he wasn't going to fire it in.
Well, Rich Dower had made up his mind that he was not going to send it. Maldonado being lifted for a pinch runner. Stanley Jefferson will pinch run at first for Maldonado. But Rich Dower had the brakes on almost as soon as Deion James broke for third base. And once again, Billy Muffet, the Detroit pitching coach, will have a chat with Henneman.
Yeah, you really don't. He doesn't have too much of a choice. The right-hander, I don't know who's thrown out. I can't see that far. He just got up. And you don't want to bring a left-hander in here to face James. So he's trying to give this guy enough time to warm up.
Bases are loaded with one out. And Chris James is the hitter. James tonight with a home run in 4 at-bats. He has also struck out twice and flied to center. He hit his 3rd home run of the year to left field, leading off the 4th inning. 6-4, Detroit leading with 1 out in the bottom of the 9th. Strike 1. Strike 2.
Well, when you can get a hitter to look like that on a pitch, there really is no reason not to try it again. I know that his best pitch is a fastball, but when you miss it that far, by rights, you ought to try it again.
Especially when you're ahead 0-2 like
Yes.
he is right now. James took the good pitch and swung at the bad one. And he fouls this one off.
Come on now, Chris James. CJ, what do you say now, CJ?
Deion James at 3rd, Corey Snyder at 2nd. They are the tying run. Dan Jefferson, who can really fly, is at 1st, representing the winning run with 1 out in the bottom of the 9th. High, ball 1. Mike Henneman trying to save it for Jack Morris. Struggled a little bit in the 8th and has really struggled here in the 9th. 1-2 to Chris James. And now time is called, and Tony Phillips comes in, and so Heath goes out.
Now, there's something that I'm not sure whether Phillips was told to go in by the manager. Sometimes that happens, but when you're concentrating on trying to get that hitter out as a pitcher, you don't like for them to come out and meet on the mound. You want to try to get your job done. Phillips went back and he said something to Trammell, so evidently they were probably trying to get the double play situation straightened out, but I don't know. We'll see here.
It's academic now as James chases another one. Low and away and out of the strike zone. 2nd strikeout for Henneman and the 2nd out and a big one here in the 9th inning.
Second pitcher is down in the dirt. I guess that's where he wanted it.
Whether or not it was by design, it certainly was effective.
He started to tag the runner, and he realized that the bases were loaded, and then he remembered.
Well, here's Sandy Alomar, 1 for 4 with a single to left in the 6th inning. And the last hope to keep it going for the Indians in the 9th. Alomar holds up, and it's ball 1. Alomar hitting .287, 3 homers, 23 RBI. John McNamara looking on. The Indians are trying to stop their losing streak. 2 with 2 out in the ninth. 1-1. Popped up into short center field, and this should be the ball game as Mosby comes on and the game is over. The Indians threaten in the ninth, but the rally falls short as they leave the bases loaded. Mike Henneman picks up his 14th save. Jack Morris, the winner, is now 4-7 on the year, and Greg Swindell, the starter and loser for Cleveland, falls to 2-5. Home run derby, Hoot.
Yeah, it wasn't really that well pitched of a ball game, but Morris did not pitch that poorly. He gave up 3 home runs. They were all with nobody on. If you can do that, you stand a pretty good chance of winning.
Once again, our final score here tonight, behind Cecil Fielder and Jack Morris, the Detroit Tigers beat the Cleveland Indians 6-4. Fly ball deep to right field. Corey Snyder back. It keeps going, and it's gone. Here we are in the first week of June. He already has 49 RBI. Boy, here's a drive to center field. It's another one out of here. A drive to center field, and he does it again. It's out of here.